phone don't vibrate. Awesome.
I flipped right past the whole thing. That's nonsense.
Yo.
So she called him broke because he won't spend $250.
Oh, so we have
Would
to
you,
answer the question.
would you spend
I mean,
$250 on a wedding?
So
I wouldn't marry a woman who would ask me to spend $250 on a
Exactly.
wedding.
That's exactly what I was about
that's
to
what
say.
it is, right?
She just want the. She
That's
just
what
want.
it
She
is.
ain't care. She don't care about the marriage. She just wants
So
the wedding.
This goes
That's
back
it.
to last week
She just wants the party.
when we say people are in love with the idea of marriage, but not marriage itself. You know what I mean? It goes so much deeper.
Yeah.
You know, this thing says for rich or for poor.
Right.
You know what I
You're
mean?
gonna be poor
For
spending
broke,
that money on a
broke.
wedding.
Right. You definitely gonna be broke spending $250 on the wedding if you ain't got it.
Well,
And,
it depends
and
on
she
who
don't
it
work.
is, right?
Right.
So I don't know his status, you know, but
But if he's struggling to tell you, if he's already telling you like, yo, I'm not trying to spend $250 on the wedding, more than likely he ain't got it. Cause most dudes that got it, they probably would or whatever, depending on how long they've been together. But again, like you said, I wouldn't spend $250 on a wedding. My thing is, I wouldn't even marry a woman that wants $250 for the wedding.
so okay. I mean, but this is perspective though, right?
Right.
Because I've been involved. I've married somebody who had, I would say it probably was a little bit under a quarter, probably a half
Okay.
a mil.
Okay.
I mean, roses everywhere, roses down the aisle, roses everywhere. So, but he had it.
Right.
But
Did he?
oh, he definitely did.
What's the percentage that you should spend on the wedding? You know, I mean, there should be some kind of rule of thumb. You know what I mean? 5% of your
Income
I'm
or something.
talking about a
5%
celebrity
of your-
athlete. I'm talking about a celebrity
I
athlete.
hear you, but even a celebrity athlete, 250 is a lot.
That's
of
a lot
money.
of dinero.
It
That's
is.
a lot. I'm just saying.
But is this not the
Clearly.
fad nowadays?
Right.
This is what these people are doing.
Yeah. But like,
Right? And then they
you're a
divorce.
little-
They
you're a
divorced in a
little
year.
the divorce rate is high because you
You're
broke.
a little triggered on this.
Yo, that's crazy. 250, and she's
You know,
tight too, though. Like,
I think the way that she's going about it
It's wrong.
is the problem.
it's
Yeah.
a turn off for
I
sure.
think because I don't know who the gentleman is. Maybe he has it, maybe he doesn't. I'm not quite sure. I don't know who he is. But the way that she's going
What's
about
Buddy's
it,
status? Is he a
think
rapper?
I have no idea, to be honest with you, what he is. I just know that he's some type of. He's some
I need
type
somebody
of.
to help me.
I think
on
he's in,
what
the,
got
he's in the
done.
music
But I mean,
industry.
I
I think
okay.
he's in the music industry, so
Right.
he's
Okay.
probably like a producer or something like that. So he
I
probably got some
I
type
think
of
it's, I
status.
just think it's the way. Even if he had it, the way that you're going about it, you're not going to marry me unless you have 250. And if you don't spend 250, then the
No,
name
what she
calling.
said is, I ain't no
Now
city
you-
hall
Yeah,
bitch.
not well,
Yeah.
Like she was mad about
in his
that.
face and everything.
and she's welcome to believe that, right? Like she's welcome to believe that
Yo.
she's not. And I'm not saying whether she is or not. She's welcome to believe what she wants to believe. I think when it starts to come to the disrespect, and the disrespect for me came, for when you called him out of his name, you're calling him broke, or this shame, this insult, this guilt. And that's very low vibrational.
Like he on these vibes.
Yo,
tonight.
yo, this vibe today.
But when you think about it, and I wish we had the chart. That's what I really didn't mean to send the chart, because I'm really into this the vibrations chart. And so it has at the bottom of the chart, the bottom of your vibrational level is shame, insults, grief, guilt. Like this is at the bottom. This is when you're operating at your lowest. So for someone who you're going to be married to, this is your helpmate. This is the person that's going to be standing by
That's
you.
your fiance.
supporting
That's what
you,
I'm saying.
She
Like,
with him for the
etc.
ticket.
right.
Just
Definitely
based,
for the ticket.
Yeah.
Definitely with him.
right. So well, I don't know. Obviously this
Mike,
is thing. I don't
come
know what
on,
she
Mike.
is.
Mike, if she
All right.
can come at him,
Mike, if you
on-
could give
on-
your
on
perception
national
on
TV
it.
No.
and tell him,
Their job is to create drama the whole
Right,
time.
right.
Right, for sure.
true.
And it-
Nobody's on that show thinking they're not going for drama.
It's furthermore is that she's not the best looking woman in the world. So if you have that, I don't care.
Kevin Hart.
If you have that amount of money, you know what I'm saying. If you have that amount of money, normally this is somebody who might have came up with. She looks like someone who came
Up with him, right?
But
with
you
the
don't know what
gentleman.
kind of skills she's got.
I don't care what kind of skill. Anyway,
Not 250.
you
Not
pay
250.
you pay him to go.
Because again,
You pay him to
Again.
go. So
I feel like again, if she's really in for it, she wouldn't even be trying to get a $250,000 wedding. She'd try to invest that $250K for y'all to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like
I think they should spend the $250 on therapy.
probably.
Absolutely.
That's
That's
just
a lot.
my
That's a
theory.
lot of money for therapy.
That's my theory.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting take. Self-worth.
I like that, Will.
And why do you say that, Will?
She's looking for validation in cash form.
Absolutely.
That's what she's looking for. She's looking for validation in cash form.
So do you feel like he's probably doing something wrong, obviously, to make
Y'all
her
gonna
feel
make me
that she
go watch
needs
that
that?
episode.
I'm not watching that.
I'm not watching that.
I'm just saying, obviously,
I-
he must not be doing something for her to feel like she needs $250,000
Can't blame it on
to
him.
make him feel
It's
validated.
never about the other person. It's always
So
about
it's just the
yourself.
person.
Right.
So he may have done something to make her in where she feels a certain
Or
kind of
triggered
way,
it.
but
Okay.
she's triggered
That's-
about something, and maybe he's just spent $250 on. He just blew $250.
Got
But he
you.
said she hadn't worked in years.
Right, and that's my thing.
said
He
that.
said,
He
yeah,
said
he said
he-
he hasn't worked in
She
years.
hadn't worked in years.
And then the
So
thing
he's
is,
been
like you
holding her
said,
down.
she goes and starts attacking him, talking about, oh, you acting like broke boy energy and stuff like that. That's like, I'm
Let-
definitely
so
not spending
let's go to
$250.
the chart.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We got the chart out.
Let's go to
Oh,
the chart. If you all
okay.
haven't checked out that book, well, Stephen Hawkins probably wrote a bunch of books, but this one is
Stephen Hawkins? Oh, David
David
Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Sorry.
David Hawkins.
I thought you said Stephen Hawkins.
But
I was
if you
like,
see
wow.
where it
The man.
is, it's the shame, it's the guilt. This is something as a man that and this is where certain partners tend to go all the time, is they attempt to take you into the shame, attempt to take you into guilt, and this is where you're operating from. And she immediately went to the shame and the guilt in regards to the gentleman, and he still. I mean, I thought he
Held his ground?
I don't know. I don't think he held his ground because he had too much talk. It would have been what it was.
Yeah, and that's it.
I feel like it's too much talk about this clip already. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Ready to move on?
It was tough.
So I guess our perspective is
My perspective is turn the channel.
That's rough. It's a rough situation though.
Or spend $250 on
let
the
me say
therapy.
this though before we move on.
Please,
Right.
I'm with
And
that.
there's also a couple things I think I need to be unpacked. The lady having worked. I don't know what other things she does in the house, what other value she brings in.
Does she have kids for him?
But
I
that
don't
might
know.
be cheap to someone that's worth $20 million.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
If I had it,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm in love with that,
Right,
not if she came at me like that,
right,
but if
That's
my
my
heart is
biggest
hers,
right.
and
Right.
vice versa,
Yeah.
But let's keep it real. For most guys, if you know you have that, right?
you're gonna
you're
say
with
okay.
and you're with the woman that you adore, that you really love and everything like that. And you know that she's not after it like
Where's her
that.
father?
You get me?
I need
More
a
than
dowry.
likely a dude's
Yeah.
gonna spend that for the woman that they
Dowry.
want. At least
Some
that's what I'm
goats or
thinking.
something.
You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
'cause-
Like if you know that you have it and that's the woman that you know you want to be with, you're gonna spend that.
I agree, 100%.
So-
If you have it,
Right.
But regardless whether you have it or not, just in the way that she acted, that's it.
You're not with her vibrations,
was-
Mike. Her vibrations threw you off. So once that happened, I already knew
Very
that
She
was
very
right.
low vibration.
next.
Next. Next
Well,
look.
nobody's paying for that $250.
Oh, hell no, not even close.
Like I said, any
'Cause of
woman I'd want to be
attitude.
with is not going to be asking for that. She's going to be like, let's do the responsible thing.
Mhm.
Let's buy a house.
Greg Adams.
Thank you.
When women get divorced, they are putting themselves in a position that is going to be detrimental to them long term. Getting married and divorced, that's like the clock strike midnight. Your life is going to be forever tainted. Now, is she going to try to patch it up and act like she living her best life? But when she in the kitchen having dinner with her dog, and then eventually when she's old enough where she eating the dog food, and then when there's no more dog food, she eating the dog. Yeah. It's tough.
That boy said eating the.
What century
What
does
is
this guy
going
live
on?
in?
How can we answer that though? Equally?
And women.
Is this the
Who asked for
question?
the divorce?
Yeah, that's the question. Will,
Who asked for the
Will.
divorce though?
Will.
I mean, you kind of like an
listen,
expert.
I am the expert.
I'm one in. I'm just one in.
I'm the
You got
Yeah, I got a divorce, yeah.
Okay.
I'm so much the expert that friends of mine, when they're getting through the divorces, they call me.
Like, how long is my whole phase?
what I'm supposed to do.
But for me, it's not just divorce; it's relationship overall. And that's what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be.
Right.
It just doesn't affect because I think for me, just a little tidbit. My divorce punched me in my face like no other. So I didn't even know how to even move in that department.
Yeah.
And I didn't blame. A lot of people get into the blaming game. I ate the whole thing like it was all on me.
Yeah.
I screwed up. So I think that's the perspective when it comes.
Does that not come down to, are they equally invested in one another? Because of somebody's already pulled out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And not invested as much as the other. And when I'm saying that, I'm not talking about materialistically.
Right.
I'm talking about emotionally.
Right.
If they're not invested the same way, it's not going to affect one or the other worse. It's going to affect one worse than the other, in my opinion.
Financially.
No, you're not wrong.
I'm not even talking about financially.
just-
So if we're in love
right.
and then I start falling out of love, and then you're still in love and you're still trying to make it work, and I'm like, blah, whatever. How's it gonna affect me worse than you? But I know you're the expert, so I'm ready. I'm ready.
I think the problem is, it leans towards what you're saying, right? It leans towards the truth of it is that someone's more invested on one side or the other. And yeah, whoever's more invested or hadn't really braced themselves to leave, they're the ones going to get hit.
Did you ask for any divorces, or the divorces, did the spouses ask, or your exes ask for the divorce?
I can say that both of my exes were the ones who filed for divorce.
Okay.
But totally different situations, totally different human beings.
But they filed for it. You never filed for divorce or asked for a divorce.
I was out of the country when the first one got filed.
Oh, damn.
What?
That's
no,
cold.
calm down, everyone. Calm down.
What do you mean?
No. Listen.
was out in the
She
country
and I was out in Australia, but no, it was, the thing is that my wife and I had been going through, marriage counseling and everything, and going through that whole process, and that is, man, I don't want to get too into it because of the personal nature of it, but
Okay.
I will, say that marriage counseling, when you go at marriage counseling with the idea that we have an issue and we need to figure it out, that is a key. But if it goes into blame, if it goes into fear, if it goes into all of these other things, and you can't listen to what the other person says.
Put up the chart.
But if you can't listen to what the other person says and recognize that, oh, wow, maybe I need to own part of this, or maybe I need to see how I can help my partner walk through this or deal with this.
You said it don't work?
No, I'm not saying, I'm agreeing with what he's saying. Like, if the person, if it's not equally the same, it's not
A lot of therapists will tell you that when people do go to counseling, a lot of times people are going to counseling to figure a way out. Like, counseling is just them they've already made the decision, and this is just a part of the process is going to counseling. You're going to find that the stats say that, I think it's 75 to 80% of women are the ones who file for divorces normally. And for women who go to college, it's more like 90%.
Yeah, because they're smart.
Yeah. Well,
right.
If you say so,
Right.
and I disagree with that, because based on that clip before, there's a lot of truth to that. There's going to be a lot, and just in the field that I'm in the industry I'm in, I'm starting to see. Well, I guess I can't say I'm starting to see. I see a lot of single women in their 60s and 70s.
Man, I was just about to say.
Alimony's alimony's over with.
Yeah.
They thought the kids were going to help out. Some oftentimes they don't even have kids, but some of them do have kids, and the kids are off living their life, and it's miserable.
Yep.
And these are people who are attempting to go buy property, but now they have to downgrade because the money's not adding up. They, like I said, they're getting to the age of 60 and 70. I think it was overseas. They're called leftover women. When you go to what's this place called? I want to say Thailand or something. Like, they're dying in these boxes and no one's taking care of them. We really haven't seen that phenomenon here in America, because most of the
it's out there. Just go on Tinder.
I'm saying we haven't seen it at that rate. I think now we're going to see a lot more of it, just because the divorces are so prevalent. It's going to be an interesting thing. You'll see homeless men.
Where do you find your stats and stuff? It freaks me out.
homeless
How
men.
much time do you spend on the internet?
That man doing
You need to
research.
get out in the world,
man.
brother. Get out in the world.
I'm out in
But
the
nah,
world.
like-
I'm out in the world because it's not just based on the internet. This is based on experience and stats and information.
Yeah.
So you can live in a blind and think that this is what it's all peaches and cream, but there's a lot, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of women who they've lived that best life, getting divorced at 40, 50, getting the alimony, getting the child support, etc. And they hit that 60s and 70s, and it's a realization like, I hope the church.
It don't even take 60s and 70s
I
though.
hope,
Like
I hope you take up collections for the church, but it's gonna be interesting as we go into the next 10 to 20 years. A lot of people say you need to invest in cat food and
dog food.
and so on and so
Jesus
forth.
Christ.
Gonna be eating the dog food.
dog.
Yeah, I don't
And then
know.
eating
Yeah,
the
Buddy
dog.
said you gonna eat the dog.
And
That's
then eating
crazy.
the dog. But it's a sad situation.
But I
I'd
think-
like to say that.
It affects both parties, but I think, like you said, if women,
Yeah, if
yeah,
you're in
some
love,
men don't.
man,
Yeah,
it's gonna
but
affect you.
no, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in love with the person, it's gonna affect you.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
some men, like you said, some men probably don't recover.
Yeah,
but I feel
wow.
like sometimes too, that's probably the dude that probably asked for the divorce. You know, because on my end, I didn't ask for it either. So I'll say
Y'all
that.
gonna have to find me the man that
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I didn't ask for it either. I didn't ask for it, but I will admit and say that
I mean, he
I was
gotta
messed
be-
up. You know what I'm saying? I messed up,
That's
so
how
I
it
take
goes.
full responsibility for what happened in it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was the cause of it, so I'll take the responsibility. There's no blame, like
Good for
you know,
you,
like you
brother.
said. But at the end of the day, like as far as like miserable, yeah, I'm not miserable, man. Like you know, it takes you a while to get over it, but like once you kind of eat that, because I think if I didn't take accountability for it, I probably would have been miserable. You know what I'm saying? But like me being able to tell people like, yo,
Absolutely.
I messed up. Like I'm looking my dad, my mom, whoever it is in the face,
agree.
and if they coming to me and they ask me like, yo, what happened? I can say, yo, I eat that. I, you know, even though she might have had her parts and whatever, at the end of the day, it don't matter. At the end of the day, I could have handled these things differently, and I could have done better. So at the end of the day, knowing that I can do that, like you can't tell me nothing. So I guess because of that, I got that high vibration. Is that what it means?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, the start of the accountability is definitely going to start to move you up, bring up the chart. No, I'm it's gonna bring up the chart. I'm
This guy
all,
in this chart.
I'm all for accountability. I
Right.
think that the self awareness, the
Right.
accountability. Because if you don't have it, then that bitterness
Right.
sets in. Because if you just point like,
Right.
this person did, man, that's a long road. Have your time and start to heal yourself.
But what about you guys that never been divorced, that been in a long relationship? How does it affect you for the next to come or anywhere?
You're
around?
the expert on this one.
Say, what's the question again?
How does a separation from other relationships affect you? Might not be divorce, but how does it affect you? And does it affect the male different than the female? What do you guys think about that?
Always experience. If you're not a mature male, experience is always going to set expectation. Meaning, if it was bitter, a bitter separation, a bitter breakup, his approach to the next is going to be a little apprehensive. I think that his walls are going to be up. He just didn't jump all the way in. Now, when we were young, you used to come across that dude that fell in love with every girl that he got with. But I think that when we
still
talk
got them
about
homeboys.
divorce
We still
and
got them
separation
homeboys.
from somebody, it's a whole different ball game, especially if he was in love with that woman. If he was in love with that woman, it's going to affect him mentally, emotionally, and his approach to the next is unless he starts to get his mind together and heal from the inside himself, he's not going to be good or great for the next until he starts to heal from within.
Now, when you say separation, is that like a breakup and they get back together? Because then
Separation.
No, like relationships. Everybody's not married.
Right. So if they were okay, yeah. I would definitely say, that would set give a guy a different mindset depending on how the breakup went. I think
I think Jamie just laid it all out there. By the way, I love all of my exes. Especially the mothers of my children. I love them the most. But Jamie laid it out there. I think that you definitely get that wall put up.
Oh man,
I
that's
think
a
the
rough
Yeah,
first
you
one.
make
one-
it harder
The
for
first one was probably the toughest. That puppy love. You never experienced it before, and y'all had it go. And then after that, it's like, what's the Gucci Man song? I'm a dog. I'm a dog.
Do you think it's harder for a woman that's divorced to bounce back than a guy that's divorced? Like in terms of
That was the
finding
question
a woman to
That was the question.
I think the problem.
finding a woman to be with, whether remarry or whatever like that. Do you think it's easier for a guy to like?
Will.
No, I just think the issue is that everything is circumstantial. Everything is circumstantial.
Okay.
Because if people ask me, well, about my divorces, I was married to my first wife for 17 years.
That's a long
We were
time.
together 20. And my second wife I was only with for 4 years. And if somebody asked me which one was harder, I would tell them my second one. I would go through court 1,000 times with my first divorce before I ever wanted to do the second one again.
Did you all have
Was
more
that
of a
based on
friendship for
feeling-
the first? Like the first one, did you all end up being
you guys
cordial,
still
or
friends,
was
cordial?
Well, we have to. We have a kid.
Oh.
But she's not a bad. Neither one of them is a bad person. It's just not a good match. Like I understand, like you guys are talking about on my part, their part. It's like I said, my game I play with people now is my shit, your shit. So it's just the way it is. I just don't. Everything is very circumstantial. Because like when, if I laid out everything that my first wife went through with me and the fact that we had a kid together and all this and that and the other, there was so much stuff there that is like amazing. And there's so many things that could build a relationship stronger. But those same things that could build relationships stronger can also tear them apart. So it became a real issue. My second marriage, I mean, that was the shocker because it was like, with the first divorce, we knew we were dealing with things or not, one of the two. And, I was out of the country and I later learned that she expected me to stay, even though I had planned the trip 6 months ago and had already paid for a bunch of things that I couldn't get the money back. And I was like,
I'm going.
well, I'm going. And she never said, hey, you need to stay if you want to be with me kind of thing. She just expected me to
Read her mind.
read her mind. Exactly.
You suck at that, bro.
And I was like,
I don't know
like,
why.
oh, you got the wrong guy.
I have
don't
no
read
idea why
minds.
women think that.
Right. But it
Jesus.
was not a surprise. It was not that one was not a surprise. The other one was a surprise because we just got back from vacation.
the first one or the second one?
The second one.
Okay.
Second one is a surprise because we got back from vacation. And she basically was like, oh, I need space. Which every married
Hold on,
guy.
after the
I didn't
vacation, though?
I didn't even have to say it. I didn't have to say anything else.
messed up.
And Jamian looked right at me and he's like, oh, it's done.
Yeah.
And that's when you know it's done. Like I had a friend who recently, he's going through a divorce. And when he said, oh, she wants to move out for a little bit, I was like, oh,
It's a wrap.
it's done.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
But everything is circumstantial. I was heartbroken after my second divorce. I was destroyed. I mean, that was, I refer to that marriage as the burning house, And if somebody told me, if you go into that burning house and come out the other side, you're going to be a better man, I would have tried to find her first because it influenced my life in such a powerful way and changed me as a person in such a huge way that I can't say that was not an important relationship. But, like I say, everything is very circumstantial. I mean, in my first divorce, when we were in court, my ex-wife and I were very cordial with each other. It's even to the point where the judge goes, are you sure you guys don't want to stay married? Because you get along fine. And we were like, yeah, we kind of know it's run its course. So
It's cool.
on we go.
Right.
So
What do you guys feel about remarrying?
remarrying the same person?
Same person?
After you
The
got
love is
divorced,
there, right?
I
You
think
gotta
that's
figure out what
stupid.
you do.
I'm not even gonna lie. For me, I think that's dumb. And the only reason I think that is because instead of getting a divorce, I could have just separated or, spent that time apart or whatever. But to get a divorce and then now to go back and say, oh, we're going to remarry each other.
I think sometimes people have to, there's maturation that can happen. Like people go out and they start to say, well, this was it. They didn't know what they had. I don't know, never know what I had until it was gone. But I have such an abundance mindset.
At the end of the, you're right.
It's an abundance, but I mean,
I'm so glad Mike meditated today.
Yeah,
I normally don't agree with Will,
It's because I'm It's because I'm white, isn't it?
That's more likely. That's the primary reason. But all that aside, right? All that aside is, I agree that it's like most things are circumstantial, and what I say is that we need to get outside and actually meet the people. You know what I mean? Because everyone is an individual person. I personally think that people are the key to life. You know, they're all adding these different pieces, etc. However, there's probability, there's possibility, and there's probability. Yeah, and as a man, and with my logic, I'm gonna stay on the probable side of it. And so I'm, as you all can tell, I'm a high C on the chart, very analytical. So when we start talking about marriages and remarriages and et cetera, at some point in time, we have to figure out, like, does it even make sense? Because when you start talking about marriage, like the downside for men, especially in a separation, because of family courts, like for most, if you have any money or have anything, it can be very damaging. Once again, I'm in the real estate industry. I've represented sellers and buyers who are going through divorce, and it's nothing like that man who bought that house and he's looking out the window, and the ex-wife, boyfriend is sitting out there and she's ready to get the check. You know what I mean? And she's like, I'm just here for my check. So when I was in these situations, because I had to sit through a couple of them, like the men tend to be like the most heated during this time, and the women are just like, hey, I'm just here from a check. So I tend to see, like, I'm like, man, this dude is really going through it. So I like to look on the probable side of it, and there's just certain things that people are more probable in regards to getting a divorce. Like the possibility is there. Hey, this person could have changed, and she's all for it. She's wifey material at that point in time. But if she had a divorce that first time, I want to say, like,
I just thought about it.
Like,
but let's be real though.
Of them get divorced. The second time if they do get remarried, they do end up getting that second divorce. They are getting a divorce the second time.
I agree with you, but I think that dude is hot because most of us know you took something from me,
right?
Especially when it's my coins,
right?
You play with my money.
Absolutely.
You play with my money,
But
but
there's the paradox.
Burn me up.
But the paradox is this: if you're married, Jamian, can you be partway in the relationship, or do you have to be all the way in?
You got to be 100. It's 100 and 100.
Yeah.
It can never be 50-50.
Right.
Yeah.
So when that is on the table, finances or whatever, be damned, because if you're in,
You're all the way
you're
in.
fucking in.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then don't get in.
Yeah.
Walk away. It's
I
gonna
like to
waste
walk away.
time.
Low vibrational. Next.
Low vibration. Why are we watching so many videos?
A difference between a woman nagging you and pushing you to your potential is she is going to always hold you accountable. Always. A woman that's pushing you towards what you said you wanted and what's best for y'all family, she is going to push you on the things that you supposed to stand, that you said that you stand on. A woman that's nagging is going to be on you about the simple shit. It's going to be on you about shit that she know you don't care nothing about. It only benefit her. She is going to be nagging you about shit like that. And men, we gotta learn to decipher between the two, because we get in the midst of, oh man, she just complaining, right? But we need to start asking ourselves, what is she complaining about? Right? That's the key. What is the about?
What was he when I was like a little bit younger, man? You know, I'm just playing.
What'd you say?
And I was saying, what was he before I, before I got
take
married? While
constructive criticism
during
from
my
your
marriage.
partner?
How well do you take?
If you have a good partner, you take it well.
Yeah.
If your partner is not approaching it with a compassionate way, kind of like we were talking earlier about if she approached me that way for $250,000 wedding, nope.
Yeah.
But if she is capable of treating you like a human being, treating you like an adult with respect, and you're capable of the same with her, even when she's not being favored, or, very easy to deal with, the constructive criticism is easy.
Yeah, I think it's.
If I'm gonna keep it real,
Keep it a buck.
there's times I take it well from my wife, and there's times I don't.
Right.
And it'll be a time that I'll have to walk away and come back and be like, okay, she meant well, but at the time it burnt me up. You know what I mean? And then sometimes me getting in my feelings about it, causes me to close the door or put up a wall where I'm not receptive to it at all. And so I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening.
Right.
And that's if I don't walk away or whatever.
Right.
So I think delivery as well, heat of the moment, whatever, circumstantial.
Well, right. But there's also your own damage, right? Because certain things will trigger you.
Absolutely.
And once that trigger is set off, you're into the reptile brain, and then you're screwed.
Absolutely.
But I think another reason why it might trigger you is because more than likely what they're talking to you about is probably true. And like you said, at that point in time, you probably know about it, and you are probably already calling yourself out on it. I think men beat themselves up on things a lot, already, especially when they know that they're messing up, at least if they hold themselves accountable. So once a person kind of says that, it kind of probably triggers you, because it's like, I'm already paying attention to it, but now that you say it, I get in my feelings. But again, it's constructive. But again, like you said, it all depends on the delivery and the respect factor.
Yeah.
I think, how a woman says certain things can either have your man want to do something for you, or have him like, hell no. And it's all about,
take it back to
and I
250.
tell women that, I tell women this all the time. Like, I tell women this, I'm like, yo, the way that you speak to your man, you can have him like putty in your hands, but it just depends on how you speak to him.
Yeah.
Men are big on respect. They want to be spoken to in a certain way. Some women call it coddling. If you call it coddling, cool. But if you want your man to do what you want to do,
But is it coddling?
I don't think it is.
There's no such. You're not coddling someone if you're respecting them.
Exactly.
And the thing is that if you treat someone like an adult and you have that tone and that way of dealing with them, that's good.
Yeah.
If you treat them like a child, well, I mean, if your woman treats you like a child, you're probably not getting sex. Because you are now a part of her problem. You are no longer a part of her solution.
You're the baby.
So then they speak to you like a child. Probably a lack of respect somewhere is going on, and you may or may not have earned that. She could be carrying issues from her childhood or something too.
Circumstantial.
Yeah.
Circumstantial.
See, this is it. Every answer to every question is circumstantial.
But okay, how about this? But we admit that sometimes, even when it's constructive, or sometimes her tone and her delivery might be proper, and we'll just say that sometimes us guys can just be in our feelings and we just don't want
For
to
sure.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah. And vice versa from us
of course,
to them.
Of course. Of course.
Communication goes a long way, and I think most people just don't know how to communicate. It's mostly is going to be your body language. It's mostly going to be your tone, and then I definitely believe there's a time and there's a place for everything.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So that's my thought process on it. Is communication, everything. If you're constantly working on the communication, constantly, and on both sides, because men, we got to work on it too, and women. Talking is not communicating.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a difference between just talking and
Effective
communicating.
communication.
But going back to 250, because 250 is coming up a lot. The thing is, I'm agree with Isaac is that even with that young lady there, and I know this is they're probably, and I don't, it's the show, I guess, or whatever show they have. So there has to be some type of drama involved in it. But more than likely, she more than likely could get that 250 out of the gentleman, besides coming at him in that direction, or she knows that that's the way that she gets what she wants is by doing that. So she knows how to.
If I nag him on,
you're right. So what's that negative reinforcement? Because he's like, man, I'm just sick of hearing her. I just gave her the 250. You know what I mean? So
a lot of this, though, this is really funny. Is it because I've been married and dating? I can tell you some cool little things that I've learned. And that is, when you're dating someone or you find that person in your life, believe it or not, their screwed up bits have to work with your screwed up bits. And we are attracted to and drawn to someone who can fit us or someone whose damage is similar to ours. And so it's really funny because I remember dating this woman who was wonderful. She was an amazing woman and I really enjoyed her. And then I was like, I got to go. And I was like, I started trying to figure out, why did I get out of that relationship? And there were a couple of things that, you know, were made sense. But then there was this other part of me that was like, oh, you know what it was? And she was actually very caring and very accepting and very understanding.
Crazy.
And I was like, I can't live with that. I need somebody who has to challenge me and push me, you know? And it's a very interesting thing because when you look at your relationships and you can step back and look at each piece, you start going, man, I didn't see that coming, even though it happened. So it's
like me too much.
It's a very interesting thing because then, you know, you see other relationships that you're in. And for me, I psychoanalyze myself and everybody all the time. So when I look back at my behaviors and my relationships, I see like parts of myself that were like exploding and parts of myself that were, you know, doing well and parts that were falling apart. And so it's just very interesting because you start to pull things apart and understand your own unhealthy behaviors, your own unhealthy ways of being and understanding the world around you.
It takes a mature dude to do that.
Takes a guy got his ass whooped a couple times. So
Because some of us don't learn the lesson.
Exactly.
Some of us don't learn the lesson.
it's true. It's true.
Next. We go for the next one, or is that?
Next.
They're not listening. Nobody's listening.
Ooh.
What? Oh, God.
Two things.
These
2 or
questions.
3 things that, if you could go back and tell your younger self 2 or 3 things, what would it be?
Okay, first of all, how much younger self?
Your call. It's your perspective.
If I can go back just 10 years, I'd go back 10 years. And
It's good to be a young buck.
I would tell my younger self 10 years, 1, work hard, and then also like read more, research more.
What do you
And
believe those
learn
things do for
different.
you?
What happened?
What do you believe those things you just said would have done for you as you go on?
Just the researching, I think I would have been able to network with people more, have more knowledge. I would have developed more streams of income by then, by just researching and doing those different things, just by learning. Learning how to invest, different things like that. Just, you know, things that I'm probably learning now that I should have been learning back then or way before then. It's like little things. Those little things would have propelled me. Asking older men for advice. Like, I think like younger dudes have this mindset that they got things figured out sometimes. Maybe not all of them, you know, but I think a majority of certain guys, that when they have that mantra bravado, it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. It's like, bro, you don't know what you're doing. You're only 25, dog. Like, you have no idea what you're doing. You get what I mean? Yeah. Where you can talk to somebody that's been there, who's 40 or however old, that's been there, and they can tell you like, yo, I know that you're going through this, this, and this right now. Because at the end of the day, we're all different at this table, but we all go through the same thing. And you all have gone through it probably just a few years before me or after me or whatever like that. But I can learn something from your experience if I just asked, if I took the time to ask, or I took the time to actually hang around older men that would put me on, not just any men, but actual men. You know what I'm saying? Men that would like actually like invest into me. I think that's one of the things I would definitely like do if I was younger.
It's good.
Next, one of y'all pick it.
Go ahead, Jamie.
You got it.
Go ahead, Jamie.
You got it. You got it, Will. You got it, Will. You got it. You got the floor, man.
I got nothing.
Oh, you got something.
No,
There's too much up there for you not to have nothing.
No, I mean 2 or 3 things that, man, there's too much. There's too much. But 2 or 3 things. Know thyself, number 1. And along with know thyself, love yourself. Because those are the things that teach. Those are the things that teach, because when you understand yourself and when you care about yourself, you play the game different. You will definitely not let people cross boundaries with you. You will make sure that you're looking into situations that before you go in a little bit further to make sure that this serves you and that it serves the people around you. And those are probably the 2 things that that was my hardest lesson in life. I mean, it literally took me 40 years is to learn how to love myself.
It's big self-compassion.
Yeah, because then with the love comes the compassion. There's just, after that step in my life, everything changed. Everything changed. My daughter tells people when they meet me and if they've only known me a short while, she's like, "Oh, that guy? That's not the guy I grew up with." She's like, "I grew up with a fat, angry guy. That's not him." Wow. And so there's a lot of reality once I was able to understand those parts. And I don't know. Those are the most valuable lessons to me.
It's good.
I had a wonderful life. So I had a wonderful, hard, lots of experiences. So there's not much I would change. I really don't have any regrets. If I had to choose a couple, if I had to choose 1 or 2, the first one would be my homeboy. Shouts out to Tim Howard. I cussed him out, and then and I walked away, like in a macho way. And he tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and he punched me in my face. So if I could go back, I would say duck, Mike. Just duck. Duck and hook. That's it. Shouts out to Tim though. Love him to death. The second, because he busted my lip. No, I busted his lip. He hit me in my eye. Yeah, he hit me right in the face. And the second thing would be forgive more. Like, don't stop, don't carry it with you. Don't forgive. It's not whatever it was. It wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? For you to carry that with you. So forgive more. And I have to go with Will in regards to self-compassion. I definitely think that, when because I'm a go person, like call you, let's go, let's do it. You know what I mean? And or just get over it. Push through it, that kind of thing. Turn around and say, Mike, chill. Have some compassion. It's okay. You know what I mean? And I'm doing that now. I think we can go back and give ourselves compassion for all of the things that we've already been through now. Like, time is not linear as they would have us believe. So you can sit back and think about those different times when you can give yourself that compassion. Hey, it was good for you to take that, to do that, or not to do that, or whatever it was. So those would be the 2 to 3 things.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I guess I'm up. All right. The first thing I would tell my younger self is, I guess be good with everybody not liking you. I think we come into a place where you work so hard for people to like you, and you can be doing all the right things for the wrong reasons. And then you fall into this people-pleasing thing. And so you have to be good with staying in your lane and everybody not liking you for whatever reason. And that way you don't fall out you don't miss you trying to please others. Right? So the second thing I would tell myself is don't be so militant. I'm very militant. Disciplined, some people say militant.
I feel it.
Some people would say lighten up a little bit. And I do like to laugh. I like to joke. But when I'm focused, I'm focused. When I'm on something, I'm on something. And for some others, it may be too much. So I would tell myself to lighten up a little bit. And third, I would say get into the tech field. It's lucrative.
Right. I'm telling you, man. You would have told yourself to invest, to do certain things a little bit different.
You know, and as we went around the table and we said that, I think from everybody who just spoke, it was like, I can feel that. I think that's just the condition of the male condition. Like, we all have this in the society, you know, molded by the society with definitely the self-compassion. Getting around, I was definitely lucky enough to get around some older guys that invest in me. I can't imagine, you know, where I would be without those, and I still do. That's one thing too. Time is not linear. It's you got go get them, go find find me. I called my OG this morning. Shouts out to Jim down there in Broward. This guy's 85 years old, and he's, you know, I'm always like, the wisdom. Just let me listen.
Right.
You know, just to sit underneath him.
And that's good though, because a lot of people won't do that.
I'm telling you,
you know, and like Isaac said, they aren't looking for mentorship or wisdom today.
He's also an 85-year-old white man.
Yeah, he's an 85-year-old white man.
He's super on.
That's nice. That's
but
good
I
stuff.
still feel like if young men would just take the time to actually like listen to what these guys got to tell them, a lot of stuff that these 21-year-olds go through, or 20,
so much.
It wouldn't even happen. Yeah. Like, if you really took the time to just sit down to these guys, tell you like their experiences of when they were 20, from 20 to 30. If they're a dude that's 50 years old and they give you experiences from 20 to 30 and certain things that they did or how they messed up or their successes. It doesn't have to be all the time that they messed up. They can tell you their successes, and you can go off their successes and then capitalize off of that, because maybe you might be doing something in that vicinity, and now all of a sudden, like, you can capitalize off of whatever that person told you. So it's just, it's always good to learn.
Time, man. I was telling Beethoven I went to go visit another older guy that ended up going into the hospital. He was in the hospital for the last 3 weeks during Christmas. No family. I mean, if you listen to this guy's story, this guy lived a life, and now he's at a point in stage where like there's nobody. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, throughout his life, in order to be in a situation where there's nobody but me, the guy he met at the gym that's going to go visit him in the hospital, you know, by himself, is like, that's telling. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you need to treat people a certain kind of way. You need to empathize a certain kind of way. All this success, all this money,
it
getting
don't
all
mean
this
nothing
stuff.
If you ain't got people with you that love you.
When you reach a certain spot and you in a jam and you looking around and nobody's coming.
That's crazy.
They saying, "Oh, call Mike," and I'm on the phone with the nurse. You know, talking to the nurse like, "Oh, yeah, if he needs to get home, just let me know so I can figure out." Because, you know, just having that compassion and empathy, but it's like looking at it, and you can. And I always like to see myself in other people. Right. It's like, oh man, you know, and that goes. And Jamie spoke about that militant. I can be militant. People want. People be wondering, like, were you in the, you know, because my schedule has to be like 15 minutes. I mean, if you look at it, it's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but you got to get that self-compassion in it. But it's like, I can be militant, but it makes people uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, when shouts out to my partners, because they were like, this dude is a nut.
But my thing is, I feel like even though you like that, people can learn from that.
That's crazy.
Like, that stuff that people can learn from. You know what I'm saying? Like, you having that discipline, because some people don't have that discipline. Yeah. So it might make them feel uncomfortable because they don't have it. But I feel like that's something that they can learn from, to be like, they might not have to be as militant as you are, but they should still be able to take certain things from that and be like, yo, like, maybe if I do certain things, I'll have this much time when I need these little things or whatever like that, because obviously it works for you.
And I'm serious about it. Like, time, you know, for me, at time is, you're already late. You know, I'm before time. Right. You know what I mean? 10, 15 minutes, you know. It's little things like that. So I try to stay disciplined, and it's good. But for people who aren't,
like you said, they're not used to it. Right, you got to, I get that.
It's good to be aware of it, though, because at one point in time I wasn't. Like, you just expect people like, oh, 3:30, like, what you? I'm not staying 3:35. I'm out. 3:30. Like, what is we doing? Like, oh no, you messing up my way.
I would have loved Mike in college, but when the teacher was late,
you messing up.
I was like, oh, we leaving, because if he leaving, I'm out. I know he gotta.
But I think there's another part. How does a younger guy ask older men to help them through the? I think that's sometimes the most difficult thing is asking for advice and how you even ask the question for certain topics. How would you guys advise?
To me, that's simple, man. I mean, that's one, because I think, and I'm not trying to knock a younger guy now, but I see a lot of pride in our younger guys, and seeing the pride in a lot of the younger guys would keep them from asking us. But it's simple, man. Can you be my mentor? Can you help me along with certain
age
things?
matter? Could it just be another men building with each other and getting that?
I think that's totally fine. Because at the end of the day, you can learn from a dude that's the same age as you, but again, everybody goes through different experiences and different things. So,
but how do you approach them? How do you ask
I think you provide value, man.
right,
What do you bring to the table?
Yeah. Say it again.
What do you bring to the table?
right.
Youth.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these older guys, they know nothing about technology. Let me show you how you could do this. You can't do that. That's
Exactly.
But Jim was like, oh my God, technology. I don't want nothing to do with that. Okay, well, no problem. I'll take this off of your plate.
Right, and then you can give me something to put on my plate.
A lot of these guys just want that companionship.
Yep.
They, you can't buy age.
Yep.
You can't buy youth. So to have somebody that's around them, that's moving around and moving at that,
It keeps you young. Yep.
Yeah, keep them young. They go, oh yeah, this young guy, he's and they want to expand on information. They just don't want it to. I feel like they don't want it to go to someone who's just is going to be wasted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. Like I think as a younger person, I think you have to actually like you said, you got to bring something too. Like you got to kind of invest in that person. Like you're saying, like they can't feel like, because as men, especially when you get to a certain age, like you can't fake the funk, especially with an older man that's been through it. Like they can read right through it. So if you just there to just kind of like try to get your little tidbit and be gone, they're gonna treat you that way. But if they feel like that person is invested and it's like you really trying to build that relationship, that's when they pull you aside and be like, hey, look, that little thing right there that you're doing, you should do this, this, and that, or that. Or, hey, I noticed that this was going on. I don't know, whatever, but, and they'll give you those little hints or whatever like that. But, yeah, I agree with you in the terms of, like, I think they need to invest in that older gentleman, too.
So my older side now, though, I find myself, even at my age, in my 40s, when I do see something in a younger guy, I'll try to bring them in close. The thing about it, though, is they don't stick around long enough to go through the process of being mentored or to see it through. Most people, again, get in relationships to see how it can benefit them. Once it benefits or they get what they want or they did not get what they get, they're out. I'm quick to tell a young dude, don't waste my time. My time is valuable to me. So, and a lot of them don't want to hear that. But the approach, I mean, he asked, how would you ask? It's straight up, can you help me? Can you mentor me? What do you want help with? I think all of us are open for a conversation like that.
But I think with kids, like you said, it's a pride thing. So for them, it's hard to go to an older person and just, But I mean, that's but when you think about it,
bring up the
but when you think about it, growing up as a kid, that's basically what you kind of. That's one of the only things you have is your pride. You know what I'm saying?
So like this subject because I don't want to talk about.
Yo.
No, it's like. It's funny because like I don't approach any of this that way. I'm not a very formal person. I know it's hard to tell.
Right.
But I'm very much, if anybody's in my circle, they're in my circle. People come and go. That's the nature of life. And if somebody's here and I can impart something to them, there you go. It's free. I paid for it already. I'll let you have it.
Got you. Free game.
And outside of that, I've had a couple of people ask if I would mentor them, and I was like, no. I was like, it's too much. It's too much.
You want me to be your mentor?
No, you're adding. For me, I'm looking at them going, you're adding weight to a friendship that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
I'm fine being friends with anybody any age. Doesn't matter to me. If we're we can be friendly with each other and have a nice time and impart wisdom with each other, because like you said, wisdom it's a bi-directional thing. It's not just one way. So to me, I mean, I just don't do formality, and maybe it's my hillbilly upbringing. We don't do much community shit. So
not bad. I'm just looking at that question right now, man. Hey man, let's just get it over with. All right,
go ahead.
One, guys.
If your ex started dating someone, they're same sex or transgendered, would you let them raise your kids or call them mommy or daddy? So if your ex started dating someone who is either of the same sex or is a transgender, would you let that person raise your kid? And would you allow your child to call that person mommy or daddy?
That's the pot stirrer. What?
Like I said,
All right, can I?
the show has a wrong name.
Yeah. No, it's called Mel's Perspective, so I'm going to give mine.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Truthfully speaking, I feel as though if the person that I was dating were to want to date either the same sex or a person transgendered, I definitely did something wrong. Like,
How is that about you?
I know. I
No.
blame me.
How is that about you?
I'm blaming me.
What if it's 2 X after?
Because I should have known while dating this person. No, there's something. There had to be something to give me an idea that they could possibly want to do something.
Here's
of
a
that
question.
sort. That's just me.
Do you believe you're narcissistic?
Do I believe that I'm
Oh,
narcissistic?
man, I hate
No,
that
I don't
word.
think so.
That's a narcissistic answer.
Okay.
Because you're taking something on you.
Narcissistic.
It is
Like,
you're
okay.
looking at yourself
Okay.
as if
As if
you
I
have-
had the power to control that situation. Okay, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is,
You
I
don't
feel
have that type of
I
power.
don't have that power. What I'm saying is, like, when dating somebody, like, I feel like you can perceive those different things. Like, you can kind of, like, I don't know. Maybe that's just my idea. But again, I'm the youngest guy at the table, so that's why you guys can impart that
It
wisdom.
doesn't
on me.
matter you
But
or not. It's
I just think that you can kind of see certain traits or whatnot, and that's all I was getting to. So if I feel like if that
I
happened,
think it might be egotistical. It's not
Okay.
narcissistic. I hate that word, and I'm gonna tell you why.
why do you hate that?
I was just looking at the criteria in
Mhm.
the
I got an
DSM. The
emergency
DSM.
gun, but keep on.
oh, now he's got an emergency after he drops this one.
It's just it's a buzz word, and a lot
Okay.
of people say narcissistic when that's a narcissist. It's not. It's maybe egotistical
Okay.
and maybe prideful, but to be actual, to be considered narcissistic, you have to meet a certain amount of criteria,
Mhm.
and then furthermore, you know what I mean. It's a stage of life.
Mhm.
Because at some point in time, most people do tend to be just oblivious to whatever else is going on.
Mhm.
And it takes, certain things to happen in life that you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff is going on outside of me. Right? So I would, just because that word and such a buzzword, Will, I know I'm jumped on it. I would say that's an egotistical
Okay.
thought process of
To have that mindset of saying, feeling like it was
it's
right,
me and
like you had the power to control
and
that
not
situation.
even
Now I
that.
get what you're coming from when you said that.
and
People
stop
people
taking
have
people's stuff.
people have narcissistic tendencies, by the
Right.
way.
Yeah,
Everyone does.
yeah.
But certain people have greater ones.
Selfish tendencies is that.
And by the way, having been
People
raised part of
have-
my life with a narcissist, I can promise you,
egotistical tendencies.
I see it.
What I'm saying is I totally understand that you may have come into interact and you may have been raised by a narcissist,
Years.
Right. That was diagnosed. I'm not saying that I'm not saying these people don't exist.
Right.
What I'm saying is just because
You feel like it's a buzzword that a lot of people use. I get what you're saying.
Behavior of it, then someone says that.
Oh, that's
person's a
right.
narcissist.
I get what you're
Absolutely,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even as a society, when you just look at the fact that you're taking a selfie, you took a selfie.
You're a narcissist, right?
No, that's
It's not.
Right.
It's
I
a behavior that a
understand what
narcissist
you're
would
saying.
use.
Basically, what you're saying
Right.
is that society uses it so much to
Society's
where it's
full of
like,
narcissists.
right? It's
Everybody's
like,
selfieing.
I'm just doing this because
Hold on a second. I got a narcissist.
I don't want to answer this question.
it's bizarre, isn't it?
It's not as bizarre. I'm gonna say we're gonna see a
That'll
lot.
stir the pot.
Yeah, it's
say
going
that
to
again?
though.
That'll stir the pot up.
Not even stir the pot, but
that's
that's pretty much what age we're about to start being in certain senses, though.
not about.
We're already
We're
Yeah,
there.
I mean, we're already there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Listen, I think that we have to figure out what triggers us about these different situations and these issues.
I think that's a pride thing.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah,
Ms.
it'd
Lola,
be a pride
bring up
thing.
the
But this is a-
chart. 1,000% pride,
Without a doubt,
1,000%
yeah.
ego,
Yeah.
1,000% whatever.
All the
Like,
way.
if someone was with, you, Isaac, for instance, and then all of a sudden 1, 2, 3, 4 relationships down,
they would have
and then
transgender or
they
saying, yeah.
just switched it.
Mhm.
Like, I'm, most humans have a certain type of behaviors. We replicate those behaviors, especially if you look back at it, like all of your relationships, like Will said. So when someone just does something just way outside of the box of what they were normally doing, I think there's issues there. There's certain things involved. I'd be more concerned about the home life of the child. Like, is my child okay?
Taken care of?
What is my child being? What do we have to see? Like, what exactly is going on?
What are you exposing them to?
What are they being exposed to? And then from that point on, have that conversation with your child to make sure that they're okay.
Well, you're gonna have that conversation with the mother too, don't you think? As far as certain things
there's only certain places you can go. You would
of course,
hope that you can have you can communicate with with the other parent. But for the most part, like I've found that a lot of that is just outside of my hands. You have to, and if you bring up the child, I'll show you. You got to come at it operating out of the love, the patience, because I appreciate that. You got to come out.
The child is there.
You got the love, the reason. Like, we have to start figuring out, like, when we come across these certain situations, these questions, like, where are we operating out of? You know what I mean? I think for that instance, for me, it probably would have been pride. It probably would have been a little bit of shame, because you have to. You feel like you put yourself, and I'm involved in.
Well, another reason why I kind of said that too is, like, if you have a child with that person, that means that you That's what I'm saying. Like, you thought about, like, wanting to be with this. You don't just have kids with anybody. At least, well, unless you messed up. I mean, if that's the case,
it happens.
You just gotta keep digging that hole.
I think Will mentioned something earlier when he said his daughter says, "I didn't grow up with this guy." I think as long as you continue to learn and grow, like 5 years ago, like, you should look back at yourself 5 years ago and be like, man, what the hell was I thinking?
I just look at last week.
Yeah, like, what was I thinking? What was I on? So,
but that's good though. That shows your growth.
But if you're dealing with someone, like I said, and this might be her, for us at the table, her 5th relationship after you. Things ain't going that well. They say the dating pool has pee in it. You know what I mean? Like, things ain't going correct. So she done went through one bad situation and never fixed herself, possibly. Another bad situation. So
she just gets
someone could catch her at her lowest, or maybe it's her highest. Like, I don't know.
Or so this is the funny thing. Like, when you step back at this, okay, you keep looking at it like, she's one bad relationship, one next bad relationship. Buddy, what about if the whole time she kept getting hot dogs and really what she wanted was tacos? Like, so I'm being honest. Like, I mean, I have very, very dear friends in the gay community and the transgender community. I have an adopted transgender son, and he's fucking awesome. And the thing is that as long as we approach this as if something is wrong with these people, we're definitely not going at them with reason, love, joy, and acceptance.
If you listen to the last thing I said,
no, I did.
I said that you could have caught them at the lowest point, or it might be the highest point.
Right.
Like, so it has nothing to do with us. I'm really talking about in response to Isaac, because I think you were kind of you were a little tricky. It's tough.
But what I'm saying is I'm sure that's what most guys are gonna think. Like,
I agree.
I'm giving the male perspective of most guys are gonna probably think like, what was it, or where was I at, or like, how did I not see that this person could possibly want to,
I would be looking at it going, I missed my chance. She's bringing women home?
You don't know. That's the problem. We said transgender too.
You looking at the chart?
Just vibrations. You're just going
trying to get that vibration back.
That's too funny.
Meditation.
I think we're in a real interesting time to where a lot of things are prevalent that I wasn't necessarily brought up to believe. I can't say that I'm totally behind it even at this point in time. I just want to give people their space, and hopefully they give me my space. You know what I mean? Especially in regards to raising my children, to raising, like, there has to be, you would hope that that conversation would be had. You know what I mean? With where that significant other could have that conversation with you. Like, I'm just, whether it's a male, female, whatever, bringing somebody into the house, like,
just letting us know what's going on.
Who's my child going to be around? You know, and is it the safest space? And listen, go ahead and do you. And I have no problem at all.
Taking mine.
Take it.
I think
Take 'em out.
Say it again.
So I'm with you, Mike. With the traditional upbringing,
Figure it out.
Right.
yeah, with the traditional upbringing, I'm the same thing. I'm
Right.
the same way, and we understand that, you know, because some of us were raised certain ways, a lot of people get offended because of our beliefs. Now, the thing is, I'm not trying to shove my beliefs
Absolutely.
Down your
on
throat.
anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? You feel how you feel. You do what you do.
Right.
I'm not going to hate you or think you're a horrible person, regardless. But I believe what I believe, and you can believe what you believe. The thing that I don't like is when we're talking in regards to this particular question, the cancer culture that comes up with people who disagree with the lifestyle.
Right.
I love them. I love gays, transgender, whatever. I don't agree with it, but it doesn't mean that I don't like you.
Right.
Your lifestyle might be one thing, but the thing is, we're in a time, like you said, you're almost scared to say whatever, social, whatever. If you say the wrong thing out there and one of them get a hold of you, yeah, it's over.
Right.
You know, they dog you. They hey, look at this guy, blah 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 blah. You know, they going on your Instagram, they going on your Facebook, and
Which
you know,
is,
it's
you know,
bad.
that's messed up, you know. But
It's tough.
yeah, I get what you're
It's
saying.
tough.
But again, I like what you said too, like, and both Mike too. It all comes down to, like we said, ego, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, like, and what does it come down to truly is, are they making sure that your child is taken care of? You know what I'm saying? Like, is your child happy? Like, when your child is not with you and you can call them or you can have a conversation with your child outside of the home and ask them about that person, is the conversation a positive thing?
Comfortable. Like, I mean, it's just
That's it. You know what I'm saying? And if your child can
Children
like be
are-
like,
are
I'm
more
like,
accepting than adults are.
you know what I'm
Especially
saying?
in
Right.
this time, yes,
Right.
Yeah.
because
But
they
it's-
see it all over now.
Right.
For sure, but I think that's the key is, like, I'm with you, Isaac, and the truth is I just look at it and I go, look, if it's a happy, healthy environment for everybody, and
Right.
everyone gets along, do what you got to do. Cool with me. I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
Because I mean, I've seen plenty traditional families fuck kids up.
Yeah.
And you know, I can honestly say, yeah, I mean, I look at traditional values. I look at traditional families. I even had one of my friends made a comment to me, man, the 1950s was great. I go, wasn't it though? We could be racist as fuck. We could beat our kids and beat our wives and nobody gave a shit. And he goes, holy shit, you went dark fast. And I said, I hate this whole bullshit about living in the past. The past was not fucking great. Okay? We did not know about things
90s.
that we know about now, right? Now
Or we probably knew about it, but we didn't talk about it.
Now we're far more aware of how many weirdos and murderers and kind of crazy stuff is going on. The 1970s, I lived in, Ohio, right along Route 40, and you in Route 70, which is like central to the country. And it's crazy how many people's bodies you would find along the freeway. This is 1970s and 80s, guys. So when we look back at things, we're missing some of the stuff.
I disagree. I would, and maybe,
That's fine.
maybe that's in your, where you came up.
But in your upbringing was different.
My upbringing, I wasn't around in the 1950s.
So I said the 90s.
Yeah.
90s.
But at the end of the day, what you're saying is like your upbringing was
already driving.
And the nostalgia is there for a reason. And so there's negative case. There's a lot of negative things happening now. There was negative things happening back in the day. So, but there, as far as the black community, let me go to some stats, people.
But I can't relate because I'm not black. I can't relate.
Well, that's why I said it. That's why I already negated you. So everyone outside of Will,
I'll sit over here.
no,
Let me face the corner.
When you go back and look at the stats in regards to the community's wealth, when you look at the stats in regards to the community's home ownership, when you look at the stats in regards to the community's marriage rates, and people stay like people were married, black people were married at a rate of, I think it was like 80-something% in the 50s. We're now at a point where it's less than 25%. We have the worst marriage rate in the country. The second only to the Caucasian marriage rate, which is like 50%. Like, we're not even close. You know what I mean? Our wealth has actually went down in regards to the amount of wealth that we carry. I think at one point in time we had a $17,000 to $20,000 net worth. Right now it's 5,500. So when people are sitting here and talking about like, oh, this rate, unfortunately, it was different during that segregational period when we were allowed to have after in the 40s and the 50s, we prospered. And then during integration, all of a sudden we started seeing a lot of our wealth leaving the neighborhoods. The churches stayed, because you'll see a lot of churches staying in these historically black communities. The churches stay, but the members ended up leaving. So you'll see you're starting to see more members coming. They live outside of the community. They drive back into the community. The pastors don't even stay in the community oft times. The pastors are driving back into the community, and so we lost a lot of community back then. You know what I mean? So when you look at the actual numbers and the stats what was going on, it was actually a more prosperous time. Now when you're talking about bodies on the side of the road in the 70s, when we start looking at the rate of blacks who are being just killed, it's not a phenomenon, because obviously when people who are in close proximity, they tend to kill each other. But when we start looking at the Chicagos and the LAs and the Miamis, the Opalakas and et cetera, this was not happening at this rate back in the 50s. And that came from the traditional family, or the traditional family values, leaving the community. These things are correlations. It's a correlation to it. So I hear it, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, the whole Make America Great Again thing, campaign, a lot of people started, be careful of this liberal viewpoint. You know what I mean? Because those values were instilled into our communities, and we're worse off for it. And that's just based upon what exactly is happening. So
it's a good perspective, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, it's a good perspective. I mean, looking at our original intent, which was to populate the earth, be fruitful and multiply. You know what I mean? Which was a family. You know what I mean? And when you do separate that, you do lose power, right?
Absolutely.
You lose power.
Fellas,
we're stronger together.
Sorry, but I got to take off, so I'm going to let y'all continue this conversation. I'm going to leave with my... my high vibrations.
Take it easy, man.
All right, guys.
Next question.
Is there another question?
I think that was it.
I have a few more comments.
Okay.
I'm not done.
Okay. Roll.
Okay.
But I mean, the correlation that you're attempting to put out there.
I'm not attempting.
No, I'm.
It's out there.
I'm allowing you to know that it's a good attempt. But it's not necessarily all of the information that we need, right? All of the information we need. The other reality is that, in 2023 and in 2022, let me step back a minute, because this is a question I seriously have. I do always wonder about what is the socioeconomic component versus the race component. And that's a real question, because, I grew up around poor white people who probably their wealth is about equal to the black community's wealth at this point. So it's a very real question I have, because even though, and I don't look at everything as, an equal, because things are not always equal. They never will be, because that's unfortunate how human beings work. But I think when I hear, tradition was pulled out of the community and all of these things, I have a hard time with it, because I look at it and I go, the 1950s. I mean, I do have a very dear friend who, if I can ever get you guys to meet him, and he would be great on this show, by the way. He's an amazing human being. His name is Bill. I can't remember Bill's last name. Bill Hester, and he's a real estate guy, but really interesting guy. He was, born in the South, a black man born in the South. And like listening to his stories is crazy, because he talks about, growing up and marching with Dr. King and being in Memphis the day Dr. King was killed, and being in the Air Force, and how he was treated differently, and how his trainer was a Tuskegee Airman. I'm like sitting here going, dude, you're like walking history. This is amazing, But when I hear the struggles that he had with race, and even serving his country as an officer in the U.S. Air Force, I just sit there and I go, how crazy is that? This guy is out here offering his life and being treated differently. And so it's an interesting thing to look at. But for me, when I look at communities and I see people leaving a community, it doesn't to say that the community was strong in my view. In my view, it says that people saw a reason to leave. And if they saw a reason to leave, then wouldn't you want to understand that reason?
I get what you're saying, but then I think about the Palm Beach epidemic. I don't think they wanted to leave their community.
I don't think we had a lot of strong, powerful, and I grew up with a lot of strong.
We were forced out of the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing that started to happen through segregation. You're forced one way or the other. Mm-hmm. You stay around here and you're going to get dealt with. I mean, the history with even knowing, they call it Barack Obama now here.
Yeah.
But it was Dixie Highway for a reason, because if black people crossed the tracks at a certain time, you're going to be dealt with.
So that was the side of the tracks.
That Dixie, Yeah. So I hear you, but a lot of times blacks were forced out of some of their communities.
Right.
I'm not saying that across the board, but
we can say across the board. You can say gentrification. You can
which they're trying to do right here on Broadway.
Right. So you can say that takes place when you once again, I hear. I wouldn't even call it an argument. I hear what you're saying, but when you look at just the sheer numbers of it, just based upon the statistics of it, of going from 8 back in 1950 being worth 8, and I know you're mentioning the poor white community, but nationally, the average net worth of a white person is $180,000. Now it's not
We have a lot of millionaires,
right? Right, absolutely. But
I'm not saying that the white guy has it easy.
Right, I'm not.
Excuse me. I'm not saying the white guy has it hard.
Right. Right. Well, and I think I'm not going to say what I think, but so your community is part of it. But when you still have to go back to the numbers. 180,000 for the majority, because we're only between 12 and 14%. I think it was 14% of the population. We're not even the majority minority anymore, because of everything that's corresponding now. But when you take fathers out of the household, when you take when you take men out of the community, you're asking like, why are they leaving the community? Some of them just couldn't afford to live there anymore. Mm-hmm. Some of them had to go back to live it because when you start taking those two incomes out and there's only one income and the other person who's supporting is Uncle Sam, then there's an issue. So there are issues there, and a lot of that I believe comes from, and not just belief, but it, according to the stats, it correlates with the traditional values being they're no longer being the traditional values. You know what I mean? So that's my thought process on it.
Yeah.
Good perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good perspective.
No, I mean, I get it. Like I say, it's just my mind goes to different places too, because I've seen, other people pushed out of communities because of socioeconomics, and not just poor people, like people who would be considered middle class or upper middle class, and they're getting pushed out of communities that they grew up in.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I had a friend who grew up in Boulder, and I remember her complaining about, she was like, I can't afford to live in my own hometown because so one of the things that happens in Colorado is every town has to be aware of how much water they have, because it doesn't rain there a lot. It's basically a high desert. And so they have to make sure that the population of the city can't get rid of all of the water within a drought of 3 to 5 years. So city populations are limited and capped. So Boulder's limited population is 85 to 95,000. They currently are at their cap. So any house that sells there is
premium.
incredibly premium.
The
So
demand is crazy. Right?
you can find if you find a piece of crap fixer upper, you're paying $700K.
Supply and demand. Absolutely.
It's insane. So there were people. So
In
people
Boulder.
I knew, in Boulder is
Absolutely.
like Boulder's uber white. it's white. Like they feel bad if any minority walks into town. They're like, oh, thanks, come on in. And it's like wow. But the point is that a lot of it, that socioeconomic reality is across the board. But
no one, and here's the thing, and because I want to relate it to the point, because I don't want to make this a black and a white thing.
Oh, I don't think
what I want to say is that when you start to look at economics, the depressions and recessions, etc., black people, the demographic is more like the canary in the coal mine.
right.
Like when you start to see those, when you start to,
Absolutely,
because when you start to see, black people spend a lot of money, but when you start to see them cutting back and restricting some of the things that they're doing, or having to get rid of a car, or starting to miss payments, that's going to be indicative of the rest of society. It's just because black people tend to, just because of the way it is, they tend to take the hardest hits up front, and then they tend to take longer to recover.
Right.
So when you look at the population, just real economics lesson, you look at you look at the black population, you're like, oh crap, they starting to restrict. They're not taking them extra trips to Publix and buying them steaks. Oh, we need to start looking at it. Even with the drugs, we started seeing it hit the hardest in the black communities, and then we were ravished by it in the late 80s and early 90s. Then all of a sudden, here's the 2000s, and Andre 3000 has that song. Then it switched to whites and got everyone's undivided attention because your daughter is on it and she can't hide. So it's like you started to see it start to creep slowly into that. So it's just these indicators. Yeah. But it's like you got to watch it, and this is just going to be the country as a whole, Western culture. We're looking at it, and we're starting to see that our values are shifting and changing. And we need to pay attention to it, because the strongest I would say that when you start to look at the different demographics, the stronger demographics tend to have a more tightly knit family structure. Some of the stuff, obviously, we're looking at, I'm like, I ain't doing that. I'm not into arranged marriages. You know what I mean? Like that. There's no way that's happening here.
That's a tradition.
But then
they're traditional,
right?
Yeah.
Certain
cultures.
But I mean that's on, because that's traditional. That's but when you start to look at those cultures, you start to say, oh, their wealth. They start to keep wealth in the it's there. They got a vetting process for marriages. Oh, you got to vet. You got to go meet the father. The father got to meet your family. My family got to meet your family. Oh, the dating, they don't date long. It's like 6 to 8 weeks. Like, hey, do you like him? Is she cute? Can y'all get along? Let's get along. 6 to 8 weeks. Let's figure it out. Oh, 8 weeks. We're getting married. The whole family's flying back to the country to. But
now you're turning it around. Now you don't want to be traditional anymore. I'm a little concerned.
Ooh. Are you referring to? Right. That's me taking it serious. But I'm saying, you see that militant.
I'm not.
I started to go down. I started to look at these different things. I'm just like, this is incredible. So I'm hoping that we find some kind of balance, because it is shifting. Like, you can't stop progress. You can't stop the future. Yeah. We got these different, just social media and technology has changed. Like, we're going to look back in 20 years and you're going to see people going to addiction camps for their cell phone. Like, keep the cell phone.
Already be. It's already a mess.
We're going to look at it 20 years from now and be like, what the? Like, this society is a whole different thing. The TikTok 3D,
Yeah.
So
I think though, the thing is that the vulnerable population is the canary in the coal mine, and the black population is a very vulnerable community in our country.
Absolutely.
And I'm not a person who denies the reality. Like, I joke with Beethoven, I joke with a couple of my other friends. Oh, you got a DWB, driving while black. Somebody pulled you over, and we'll laugh about it, but it's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
That I never saw, because where I lived, there weren't very many black people. But when I joke about it, a lot of brothers are like, "Oh no, that shit's real," and I'm like, "Oh, that's so crazy to me." But race is a real thing that really affects people's lives. I can have conversations where I can see that you have different rules in your brain about how the world works versus the way I see it. And it's alarming to me because it means that there's something very real there that I can't grasp. And it's like, it's just interesting to me, but it's difficult for me because I don't like to see people have to feel like they have to live with very many. I'm a big person on freedom. Like I really believe in freedom. Like I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to like you, but I need to make sure that you're free to say what you need to say, free to believe, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, I don't give a shit what you do. It doesn't bother me. But I think that real, true reality of growing up in a country where, let's be true, like being honest. You're vilified because of the color of your skin in our country. And that's fucked. Like that is really fucked. And to know that you had to grow up with that burden is a very sad thing for me. Because I look at that and I go, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't be who they are around me. Because then I feel like I'm taking someone's freedom. And that's not my intention ever. So it's a very real conversation, I think, to have with people. Because I know people who are like, oh, it's no different. And this, and I'm like, whew, you must not have many friends from different races because it's real.
It's definitely different. Definitely different, man. But and again, though, different views and vantage points. Because that follows, the black race through everything in society, from how much you get paid on a job. Mm-hmm. Your white counterpart who may have less experience,
that's crazy,
may get more money than you. Doesn't have the same knowledge as you. He can get paid more than you. Mm-hmm. And, we overlook little things like that. So it's a big thing. And I got to be honest, I don't know if it'll ever be rectified before we get out of here. If we're going to be real.
You mean tonight or?
Yeah, I think this is going to be something that we're going to have to deal with until, because it's systemic, right? This has been since the inauguration of this country. And so if it's systemic, it's been planted from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And even though we see less of it, we see more interracial dating now.
For sure.
These kids, they don't care about the color of your skin, but the people who are from the 50s and 60s, you know what I mean?
They struggle.
They still struggle. Yeah. And they would put that on their kids still. Mm-hmm. And so we still see it from time to time, and it is a struggle for a lot of people of color, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think, and I came up with a statement that, the whole black and the white, like white is a mindset. Mm. You know what I mean? Like it more so.
I know some black white people.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a mindset. It's like the fact that there's certain, because you can be black and not have a, like we'll say, not necessarily, and you can also be white and feel a certain kind and feel subjugated or oppressed, I guess would be the word for it. And it's just in your mind. Like you can't get past that thing. I'll speak on, be vulnerable about it myself, is in real estate. So I make calls to a lot of different neighborhoods, etc. So you starting to see the price point. So you'll do 200. Okay, that's $200,000. That's not a problem. 400,000. That's okay, yeah, and I see where the market's going. 600,000, 800,000. When you get to about 8 million, you're calling 8 million. It's a different conversation.
Absolutely.
And if you come from a certain place, you know what I mean. Like I had a part where I'm saying, oh, am I good enough to have a? And it just became aware of that thought. Like I had to look at it and say, am I good enough to have a conversation with this person at 8 million? I went to school on the island for middle and. For elementary and high school. Mm-hmm. I went on Palm Beach Island. So I was around wealth. And so it was like, but still, after growing up, after a certain amount of time and just being what's put out there, you can feel a certain kind of way. So I think it's very important for us to have these conversations.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
1,000%. And then instill that in the youth. Is it going to be, quote unquote fixed? We have so many different, nervous, these little tics. And kids mostly learn by watching.
Right.
So they'll see when you you stiffened up when that police car, got behind you, or when you're like, oh, or people around them are making the comments of X, X, and O. And same thing it might, in the a lower socioeconomic status with white people. So
yeah, but it's not. That's for me is the whole weird part, right? I think there's a socioeconomic piece, but even in the socioeconomic piece, the race piece actually will outweigh.
Every time.
It will outweigh. I mean, look, like he's telling the truth when he's like, yeah, you know more than the white dude, but he gets paid more.
Yeah.
So if you all are both from the same socioeconomic class, that's an extra oppression. So in my mind, I like to pull things apart to see, okay, this part is this and this part's this, so I can understand it. Because there are definitely things like when you and I talked before and we were on your podcast on Facebook a long time ago, you guys were talking about certain things. You're like, oh yeah, that's growing up in the hood. I started laughing because I was like, that's growing up hillbilly. I don't even know what you're talking about. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same. But there are definitely parts that are just not interchangeable. Like you can't, it's just not possible to interchange them. Right. And for me, like I say,
I think we got to conclude. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. Oh, okay. for me, I just want to always recognize that, no, that's a part that's real, but how many parts are
like especially for the kids, I think it's I struggle with that. I got 2 boys.
Yeah.
Had an incident this week, involving the oldest one and having to have a conversation with the school. And like you don't want them to feel that way.
Of course not.
You know what I mean? And then even if they do feel that way, you want them to understand that, hey, it is, you got to overcome it, because you don't want that victim mentality set in, because that sets in pretty quickly. You can get, you watch people get beat down and they just like, oh, this is just how it goes. And then they go, they're upset about it outside of, let's say the job or whatever. They're upset about it and they're just complaining, but they've already succumbed to it. You know what I mean? So like, my question is, it's a fine line. And obviously you're only going to know when you find out when you find out, right? But it's like it's trying to figure out. Listen, you gotta keep striving. You know what I mean? Like regardless of it, try not even to put it into play. It's we're saying that it's in play, but don't put it into play. You know what I mean? You need to act as if and talk to yourself enough to where it's not that. Just having that. You know what I mean? I think that was one of the biggest things when I was. When my oldest son first got into school, and I'm just like, I just don't want them to make him not like going. You know what I mean? Like because that's it, and that happens early. You know what I mean? Like that's first grade. You're talking to him a certain kind of way. You write them off, or we label them this, you label them that, and you start to treat them differently. And boom, from first grade to second grade, they already have this thought process in mind, like. I'm not good at math, or I'm not, this is not my thing, So it's like you gotta, I guess being a father, or just being around, you want to make sure that your child doesn't have those negative things, and that is an egotistical and prideful thing, I guess, all within itself, to think that you can control it all.
Right, absolutely. But at the same time, no parent wants to ever see their kid struggle, especially with something that they don't realize. People were like, oh, I'm not good at math. And I'm like, well, it's a skill. You have to develop it. It's not. Yeah, and you may have a harder time developing it than the next guy. You don't know.
Yeah.
But if you work on anything, you can develop it. And I think that's the thing, is that whole concept and the myth of natural talent or natural gift. I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't exist. That is what we would refer to as a wives' tale. That is not real. It does not exist. We all have to develop everything as we come up.
Absolutely.
And that's a hard lesson for me to learn. It took me a long time to learn that. And then when people started telling me how, because of my job is kind of specialized, people are like, wow, you're you're really good. You must be natural. I'm like, how the fuck do you become a natural audio video guy? There's nothing natural about this. Okay, you develop a skill, you practice it, you keep doing it until it becomes second nature. Right. And then you're like, okay, I got this. You know, just the same with real estate, right? You get good at it and then you're there.
But they have to be that, and that, I think when we start talking about what's going on now, these conversations and being able to be in the room and be able to share these different things, because before, like, it was like, you know, you went home, you didn't know what, and I got a show on Mondays, it's called What It Takes. I'm just showing you, like, this is what you got to do. Like, people like, oh, you're just looking at houses? You gotta, you know, you gotta prospect, you gotta hustle, you gotta put stuff together. And this is all it took. And I never know what it took until I saw someone. I was like, this is like, really? I got to put in this much work? Mm-hmm. So it's cool to know, even on your side of it, is like, okay, so this is what you have to do. Because we could blame it on the racial disparity, but the thing is, it's lack of exposure. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what it took to, it's about networking. Okay, so I need to stay after longer. Oh, I need to learn how to play golf if that's the case. You know what I mean? I need to be around this, because now all of a sudden I can be accepted into this tribe. Mm-hmm. But if you're not doing a lot of the hobbies and the things that other people do, because you don't even know to do them,
right?
You're done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know, I can't imagine how much money I've missed by never playing golf. I can't even imagine. Like, I have a good friend of mine. He does what I do. He plays golf. And he tells me how many deals he's done on the golf course that are 6-figure, 7-figure. And I'm like, I gotta play golf.
Too stupid. Exposure, like
it is. Well, people do business with people they like,
or are like them,
right?
You know what I mean?
And it's, but that's all very real. It's, but yeah, I think it's funny though. This is my last statement, I think, but I think it's funny to me how I live in a world where people are talking about how aggressive black men are. And I'm like, okay, maybe you didn't get the part where people who lived on this island over on the other side of the ocean traveled around the world to kick people's asses and take their fucking land, and they were all my color. The most aggressive people on this planet are white.
Funny.
I'll leave it at that.
I wish it was funny, but it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because they write the rules.
Yeah.
And so it's a very twisted reality that we're all kind of stuck in a sense.
You know, I know we got to get out, but I'm going to agree with you though with the statement with people saying black men are very aggressive. So, prime example. My wife and I, we went up the road, went out of town, and we go to this restaurant, and we had reservations. It's small in the foyer. So people are sitting and standing in the foyer. So we get in there, time for the reservation. They tell us it's going to be a 30-minute wait. Now, mind you, it's 40 degrees outside. Said if you want to go out to the patio, this is what they say. If you want to go out to the patio, you can eat right now. Patio, you got a heater out there? Oh, just one. So it's so crowded, you know, and COVID is still real, you know, so it's so crowded in the foyer. I said, you know, let's just go stand outside for a while. You know, maybe they'll call us in a minute. But I see an Uber driver come up, and I see somebody who just ordered online. They come up, they pick up their food, and I see this lady walking out, and I say, hey, excuse me. I said, I had reservations. I said, we're not seated yet, and we're standing outside in the cold. Can you tell me when we can get a seat on the inside? Mm-hmm. My wife, she pulling at me. No, don't. You know, I was like, why? Oh, you're talking to the wrong person. I said, no, I'm talking to the right person. She just helped that lady. She's going to go get us some help. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she's embarrassed, you know, because it's that aggressive black man thing. But no, I just wanted answers.
Right.
We're standing outside in the cold. Mm-hmm. We have reservations. When can I get a seat?
Right.
You know, I didn't see you tell anybody else, go eat outside. I'm looking on the patio, and it's plates that have been out there for 20 and 30 minutes, empty. So who's eating on the patio in 40-degree weather? You know? So, you know, of course, me saying that, Oh, while we're waiting for 15, 20 minutes outside, as soon as I said that, oh, your table's ready. And I looked at my wife like, you got to speak up sometimes and not be afraid to do so, no matter how they perceive it. I'm a paying patron as well.
Right.
My money is just as good as anybody else's in this place.
Right.
If it wasn't, I wouldn't have came to this place. You know what I mean? And so that thought, it's major. But even we're starting to think that, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And like you said, though, first grade, I don't know if I like it or I can't do. No, I told her, no, I'm not gonna say that I'm aggressive. I know what I want, and I want what I want, and I'm not gonna sit back and I'm not gonna allow somebody else to treat me less than just because.
Right.
How do you have people coming to your restaurant and you're telling them to wait outside or eat outside in 40 degrees with one heater on a whole patio? Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you got to speak up.
And that's what I did.
It is what it is. How they take it is how they take it. Whether they take it, once again, because it's a mindset. Because it might have been on your mind, and it might not have been on her mind. That person might have just been whatever. So, but that's the thing is like we have that little mindset. I just think
I'm gonna speak up.
Yeah,
I gotta speak up
and have the and be able to deal with it. Here's the male perspective. Deal with the consequence of that. Oh, y'all feel this? Whatever. Right. Until y'all come out and say it. I'm going to speak like I believe I need to. I'm going to address the situation like I think the situation needs to be addressed. But it's that one little tweak. That I get it, man.
Yeah,
1,000%.
I think a lot of it too is how you approach it. Because when you approach things, respectfully, it's not a big deal.
See, so it goes back to that.
Well, I mean, when you go to that person,
absolutely,
that you're going to talk to, and you do it respectfully, the people are like, oh, okay.
But for me, saying excuse me, we had reservations. To me, it's respect. To my wife, my voice is deep. It sounds demanding. So
and sexy. It's sexy voice. It's not like this trapped lesbian voice I have.
Oh man. So to her though, she thought I was being a little aggressive. So but I wasn't. It was like, hey, treat me right.
Right.
But I've had a similar situation. I think we both gonna have similar situations in the way that it comes off, and it wasn't necessarily the person who I was talking to because I felt as if I was being respectful. Mm-hmm. But then
somebody in
my party was like, Mike, you need to calm down. Mike is fine. You'll know when Mike is mad. Trust, I tell people all the time, like, you're gonna know, like when I'm upset, everybody's gonna know because I'm fuming. You know what I mean? Yeah. But at this point in time, I'm just being being assertive in this and trying to be as respectful as possible. However, the person in the party was that way. And so yeah. So the person.
So
we're
rapping.
We're rapping.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Now forget it now.
but I'm gonna go. You can rap it. We're done. We're walking out. But I just want to finish the point with the guys. So, but the person in the party was feeling that way. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting because we do Zoom phone calls when we're prospecting, and I was on the phone with a young lady. She's out of Texas, and she said, man, when I call a person and they pick up and it's a male with a deep voice, not necessarily black or white, just a male. She's like, I get intimidated from a male's voice being that way. Yeah. And so I said, and I made a joke. I said, deep voices are misogynistic.
Oh no,
I was joking, but it's just that as we start to shift, you know what I mean. I think you notice like certain things is just all of a sudden it's like this. You're being a man, or you're being aggressive, or you're like, no, this is how we talk to each other. If we're not on camera or something, me, Will, and Jamie are outside, we getting kind of loud, and we're and then we're gonna go back to watching the game or something. You know what I mean? It's just the way that we interact. Right. So it's the merge of the different cultures, man.
Man, so, love it, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Cool, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.